The security footage was impossible. Station Commander Krex watched it for the fifth time, his scales shifting through confused color patterns. The containment breach had released a Therian apex, a full-grown monster from Deathworld Xerxes. 20 feet of muscle, claws that could shred titanium, and a hunting instinct that had killed 47 researchers across the galaxy. Everyone in Section C should have died. The blast doors had malfunctioned, trapping 30 personnel inside with the creature. By the time security arrived 14 minutes later, they expected a massacre. Instead, they found junior botanist Elena Rodriguez alive, sitting calmly in the center of the corridor, surrounded by 8 Therian cubs from the juvenile research lab. The apex, the cub's father, lay dead, torn apart with a savagery that made hardened soldiers vomit. Now Elena sat in interrogation, sipping tea like she hadn't just survived the impossible. "Explain," Krex demanded. "The apex was hunting. You were trapped. You're a botanist with no combat training. How are you alive?" Elena set down her cup. "The cubs guarded me." Therian cubs don't guard humans. They're wild animals, kept for behavioral studies. They barely tolerate their handlers. "That's because their handlers treat them like specimens," Elena said quietly. "I treated them like babies." Security Chief Voss pulled up her file. "You were reprimanded 6 times for unauthorized interaction with the cubs. I brought them treats, sang to them when they cried at night, let them out to play when the lab was empty." Elena shrugged. "They were lonely. Cubs shouldn't grow up in cages. You compromised research protocols." "I gave orphans affection," Elena interrupted. "Their mother was killed during capture. They needed someone." Krex played the footage again. The apex had burst through the wall, immediately locating Elena, the smallest, weakest prey. She'd frozen, backed against a door. Death was seconds away. Then the first cub appeared. "How did they even get out?" Voss demanded. "I taught them how to open their enclosures months ago," Elena admitted. "In case of emergencies. They're smart. They just needed someone to show them once." On screen, 8 cubs, each barely 3 feet tall, had positioned themselves between Elena and their father. The apex had paused, confused. These were his offspring, but they were displaying aggressive postures. At him. "The apex should have just pushed past them," Krex said. "Parental instinct doesn't override hunting drive in Therians." "But it does override everything else in the cubs," Elena said. "They thought I was their mother." The footage showed the truth. When the apex stepped forward, the cubs attacked. Not with juvenile swipes, but with coordinated pack tactics Elena had inadvertently taught them through play. The smallest went for the tendons, the larger ones for the throat. They fought with desperate fury of children protecting their parent. "They're babies," Elena's voice broke. "But even babies can be dangerous when someone threatens their mom." The apex had fought back, of course. 3 cubs were injured, 1 critically. But 8 determined juveniles, fighting without self-preservation, had overwhelmed even an apex predator. They'd torn into their own father with inherited savagery, then immediately returned to Elena, nuzzling her for comfort while covered in blood. When security arrived, Voss read from the report, "You were treating their wounds. The cubs wouldn't let medics near them. They were hurt protecting me. Of course I helped them. They're dangerous predators. They're orphans who chose me as family," Elena said firmly. "And I chose them back." Krex's scales shifted to a respectful gold. "The cubs are being relocated to a sanctuary. Their actions prove they're too compromised for research." Elena stood. "Where they go, I go. You're a botanist. I'm their mother," Elena said simply. "Ask them who they want." Later, at the sanctuary, 8 Therian cubs, apex predators in training, followed a small human woman around like ducklings, chirping for attention and treats. The galaxy's most dangerous species, tamed not by force or science, but by lullabies and snacks. Security never did fully understand the report, but the cubs did. Mom was safe. That's all that mattered.